Hey there guys, and welcome back to Alex Invests. Unfortunately, my DSLR camera broke, so I'm going to have to get that fixed. We're going to use the webcam for this video. Today I want to talk to you guys about inflation and its effect on our tech and innovation stocks, which we're in, and we're just going to look at the chart for some of these stocks as well. Lately, there's been worries that inflation is going to be permanent rather than transitory, and that's had a large downward effect on a lot of our tech and innovation stocks. However, over the next year here, we will start to see whether this inflation actually is transitory or whether it's permanent. And when I say permanent, really I mean longer than the next 2 years. And when I say transitory, what I really mean is 1 year or less, right? And that would be August 2022, right? 1 year from now, not in Q4 2021, if that makes sense. So if inflation is transitory, then we should start to see some good kind of movements in our tech and innovation stocks as they've been taking a huge hit because of worries of inflation being a permanent, right? And so if inflation is transitory and we do start to see, CPI levels come down, inflation come down, right? Then we're going to see some runs in some of these stocks. Now, there's arguments for both. Looking at arguments for transitory inflation, we have the fact that pandemic level supply chain issues have caused a spike now that we're out of that, right, in 2021. Also, the Federal Reserve is using the same monetary policy, the same quantitative easing, etc., that they were doing back in 2008, right? And in 2011, we realized that inflation back then was actually transitory. And are we seeing the same thing now, right? And finally, of course, as we benefit from tech and innovation, that naturally has a deflationary effect. So as long as we continue to innovate and continue, developing, that should lead to a deflationary effect, which would then, obviously lead to less inflation moving forward, therefore, it being transitory. Now, of course, on the other side, there's arguments like the government having spent so much money on stimulus packages and giving that money, to consumers, et cetera, to spend money, has obviously brought the fiscal deficit much greater than it used to be, as well as an argument of deglobalization, right? Which is essentially, in the past, we've expanded and globalized more, throughout the world with free trade agreements, with the internet, right, communications, etc. And now what we've seen with the start really of the Trump administration and moving into the Biden administration as well is, some what you could almost call, trade wars, where, for example, with China, how certain companies and products, etc., are being restricted, and that is a restriction of trade, which is leads into deglobalization, which leads to inflation because it leads to higher prices because we have even the same amount of demand or more demand but less supply, right? And that's the exact same argument we see with energy prices, right? We see oil prices going up and up. And because of those supply chain issues, right, that we got in 2020, there's going to be less supply in 2021 and potentially 2022 and moving forward from there as well. And that's where permanent inflation might take effect there as well. But on the other side of things, right, we are seeing, tech and innovation here quite heavily, especially in the energy sector, and hydrogen, although not exactly an energy source, right? It is part of that as well. Think about wind as well and solar, right? The amount of solar companies that are coming out and also doing very well on the stock market. Take, for example, SunPower, right? Even just recently, over the last year and a half, really started making a profit, and with that, their stock price shot up to the moon, and we could see this kind of more and more here now. Same with wind, same with other alternative energies. Now that's good for those alternative energies because as we've talked about on this channel before, as oil prices rise, alternative energies become more attractive, right? So in a sense, there we kind of see both sides of the coin. Now, as well, on top of that, right, as we see oil prices go up, we'll see more investment into tech and innovation in the energy sector specifically, right? Because oil prices are so high, people are looking for those alternatives, which they'll find, in clean energy, etc. And that will actually be good for, stocks in the tech and innovation sector in clean energy. And as we see more investment, we see more innovation. And again, that has a deflationary effect, right? Now, that's just a little bit of a gist there. Obviously, you can do more research on it all. Those are just some of my thoughts on the subject. Now, what I want to do is go through some of the tech and innovation stocks that we've been investing in as well, and show how, first of all, not only have they gone down quite a lot, right, over the past few months here as inflation worries are quite high, right? So even if we have kind of permanent inflation moving forward, I don't see, the tech and innovation sector doing that much more poorly than it already has, because of those worries that inflation will be permanent, right? We've already seen that decrease in the share price because investors already believed that there was going to be permanent inflation. Now, if we find out that inflation was transitory, then we will see a nice run in tech and innovation in general, right? So on both sides of the coin here, really, I don't see too much more downside. Now, of course, there's always downside potential. And if there actually does end up being permanent inflation, we will likely see those tech and innovation stocks come down a little bit more. But specifically in the energy sector, right, even with inflation being permanent, we, as I just mentioned, right, with things such as oil prices remaining higher, even going higher, that could be potentially actually a good for tech and innovation still in that energy sector. And for the rest of tech and innovation, again, if we find out that we do have transitory inflation, we'll likely go up. If we find out we have permanent inflation, we'll probably not go down as much, since we've already tanked so hard in the past, right? So those are the kind of things I want to have you guys think about, keep in mind, right, as you're investing in these stocks, as you're investing in any stocks in the tech and innovation sector in general, right? So let's just take a look at some of these stocks that I'm talking about, right? First of all, FCEL here. This is the first one. Now, I did actually buy some leaps on this, which are options contracts expiring in 1 year from today, because I do think that we're going to come back up in price here. I mean, this is kind of what I was talking about right here, right? This is when inflation worries really started to kick in, and actually more around this level here. And we see like the big tank we've already had, right? Now, usually when we hit this $6 level, right, we hit resistance. We have a little bit of a run off that. We saw the run here. We saw the run here, right? And I wouldn't be too surprised to see another one here. And that's why I got those options contracts, because I do think we're going to come back up. And even if we don't, in the longer term, right, or in the midterm, I do expect the price to be higher than this level. And that is why I did that. Now, of course, I'm still holding my shares here as well, and have picked up some more at around these levels as well. Now, moving on to MVMD, you guys know this is one that I'm extremely bullish on. About 40% of my portfolio is currently in MVMD. And it looks like we've kind of hit a bottom here lately, right? I originally invested back here, as you guys know, and we've talked about all this before, but really what's nice to see is lately we've just been kind of consolidating around this level and even coming up a little bit, right? And that shows how undervalued we were basically down here as well. Something to keep in mind though about MVMD, on the 21st of August, there is a share unlock which could have some downward pressure on the stock, but as well, you guys got to think about the fact that we've tanked so hard already, right? And I don't know if too much extra downward pressure is going to be added on the share price at these levels, because as well, you got to think about all the investors that have bought, somewhere around anywhere in this level really, and aren't looking to sell at this level. So even those that little bit of share unlock there is unlikely to cause that much extra downward pressure, especially since we're seeing a bit of a reversal in the trend here right now from this downtrend that we've seen right in the past. So now Hillcrest Energy Technologies, this is also a great one because they're moving into proof of concept right now, and we have been consolidating around that 0.18. I don't really see us falling much lower than that. The 0.17 level obviously is pretty much the low for a long time now, and we can't really see it here. So we're just going to go over it to this, where we can see it a little bit better, and we'll get back to that article in a second, right? If we look at the year to date, right, we came up from that 0.05 level. That's when, Hillcrest really started to announce that they were moving into that clean energy sector. Since then, consolidating around that 0.2, 0.17 level. This is on the US. This is in USD, right? So it is a little bit lower. We can see this long area of consolidation here, which is great. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, right, about Hillcrest, and this is really important, is that they've accelerated their high efficiency efficiency inverter development, proof of concept testing announced for Q4 2021. Now, this is just their proof of concept prototype, right? And so there's still many next steps here for their high efficiency inverter. But what's great news about that as well is that they've successfully completed engineering simulations more quickly than initially anticipated. And I've said that Hillcrest is going to move quite quickly here to commercialization. Yes, they still need to do a full POC. After the prototype, they still have to move into the POC in EVs, in those renewable energy generation and storage systems that they're looking to use their HEI in, right? But it's a great start. And, if we take a look here at EXRO's stock chart, right? And this is September 25th, 2020. And that's really where they announced that proof of concept would be delivered, right? In Q4, that's when it was delivered, right here. And then we had that big jump up to around that $4 level. And then we've been hovering, consolidating around that $4 level. And that is at a market cap of roughly $431 million, right, Canadian. And here, this is back when they were still in proof of concept, right, moving into delivery of the proof of concept, right? And the rest is really history there. Now, taking a look at Hillcrest, right? And, much smaller company, $52 million market cap here. But once they've done their proof of concept, if it is successful, we should see a similar kind of jump in Hillcrest Energy Technologies. I'm not saying we'll get to, a $430 million market cap like we see for EXRO, but what I do see happening is us moving kind of much higher in the price here. Let's say doubling the market cap or something like that, if that proof of concept does end up being successful, which, by the sounds of it, by what Hillcrest has been saying, by what their management team has been saying, by what Ari Berger has been saying about how they have products which are basically ready to be commercialized, but they're going for a different route because they know they can do it better, right? Saying things like that makes me think that they will get to that stage and quite quickly at that, right? And that's why I think it's a great time to buy now as we're consolidating at this level, because I don't really see us going much lower than that 0.17 Canadian. And eventually, as they say, they're going to have POC testing in Q4 2021, and so moving into 2022 there, right? Let's say Q2, Q3, we could see some good moves here as they start to, and I stress start to here, move into commercialization, right, from there. All right, moving on here. Exro Technologies, another great one, right? Again, we can just talk about this consolidating at this level, right? And we're seeing a no basically move much lower here, even with inflation worries, etc. And so that could be very, very good signs for EXRO, if we do end up seeing transitory inflation there. Moving on, AMC, last week in my video I said that I would potentially be buying AMC if we kind of see more of a consolidation here. I ended up buying on Friday, and sure enough, today we do see a bit of a run here. Do I see it continuing? Potentially, yes. Hard to say though with this stock, could go anywhere really, literally. This one could go anywhere, but I do believe in what the Redditors and everyone else has been saying about the stock, and we've seen the success in the past already. And yeah, originally, obviously I bought back here as well. Actually even bought on the highs back here and just held, and I'm very happy that I did do that. Anyways, Oxy as well, I wanted to mention to you guys because I did buy some shares today in Oxy. Reason, well, this is close to the bottom here for a while, and as we see oil prices continually going up, as we kind of see this inflation, which sure might become less now that we've gone through those really, really heavy months, March, April, May, June, July, right? Moving into August, September, October, November, December, those were already, will show us a little bit more whether we have transitory inflation, yes, but I don't see us coming too much lower in Oxy than 24.69. Remember also they do have a carbon capture program which they're kind of starting here, I do see good things for Oxy. So, this was just a level for me that I like to buy at. I sold up here. I did make a video as well talking about how Oxy is overvalued at this price. Oil prices might be coming down, and sure enough, we did see that. But yeah, we will likely bounce off of this level here because of oil prices being so high already right now, right? ACU, I think, is a great solar play right now. I think originally I mentioned this one right around here. We did tank a little bit, but since then we have come up a little bit from there. I do see good things from them. They're doing some great things in solar and development there. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, if we see some of this either transitory inflation or permanent inflation, it could be good for solar companies in general, wind companies in general, just clean tech companies in general, and that's where CMC also comes in, and we'll look at CWSFF here. But same kind of thing here right now. Again, they sell diesel fuel. Well, not yet, but that's their plan, right, is to turn garbage and any landfill garbage into diesel fuel. So as prices go up, potentially, diesel fuel gets more expensive, and we see higher margins for Cielo. Again, very risky one. Yes, they are still not in revenue phase here, but they have started development on their new plant. And in the next few years, I do see some great moves in CMC. So keep this one on your watch list as well. And again, whether inflation is transitory or permanent, it's likely that we'll see some good moves in CMC. But again, that also depends on how early they get to revenues, right? If not so early, then obviously higher inflation is going to be bad for this stock. But let's say in a year from now, they start to have revenues here from their first facility. Then as if inflation is permanent and we do kind of see higher prices, it should be good for CMC as well. On the opposite side, if we see that inflation was transitory, it's a growth stock with no revenues or right now no revenues. That'll be good for the spec plays there, right? And again, one that goes along with ACU here as well is Solar.V, but they're in quite a downtrend here still. We'll see what happens here, but I'll keep you guys updated on this one as we know more. Same with the other stocks, and that is going to do it for the video today, guys. Next time I will be talking about cryptocurrency, because I mentioned to buy crypto a few weeks ago now. I think July 4th was when I posted that video. And obviously, sure enough, we did see a very, very nice run in crypto. I'm currently not buying, but I did obviously buy before. We'll see what happens there. But anyways, that will be in the next video. Other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I hope you liked the video and enjoy your week. Thanks for watching.